The next phase that we're going to do is our framing. So let's open up our framing option and let's do our framing for the various sections. You'll notice in this dialog that I have several tabs. And if we come in here, beginning with the foundation, I'm going to build the floor framing, which would be the subfloor for the main floor, floor 1. And then I'm going to skip the ceiling framing for now because, again, I'm going to come back and do the second floor. But I do want to build the wall framing. One of the things you'll actually notice with Chief Architect is it has commonly used defaults. These defaults you can override. In this case, we've already got for our outside walls a 6-inch wall. It's going to use a 2x6. For our interior walls, we selected 2x4. So I can't control that in the framing, but I can change the stud thickness and the spacing, as well as the number of top plates. But I'm going to accept these defaults and check Build Wall Framing. And then the final thing, I'll show you a couple of these tabs. Openings, if you want to do your trimmers, your headers, you can specify the header distance depending on the size of the opening. All of this framing can be manually adjusted later as well. In the Roof Framing tab, you'll again see these different members that are being used. You can change those as you build it. But I'm going to go ahead and accept those defaults. So I'm going to build my subfloor, my wall framing, and my roof framing. And probably going to get prompted to turn those different layers on as we go through and build those. And let's go ahead and toggle on our glasshouse view here. And as we toggle on the glasshouse view, you can actually see through the structure. Let's close that view. And let's take a framing overview, just showing the different framing. You can actually see the custom framing member that we put in there. And then if you want to turn your doors and windows off for a 3D view, you can just come into the layer set, choose those options, and determine what you want to turn on and off. Now, if I bring up this view, let's go ahead and select this wall. I don't have the framing layer turned on in our 2D. So let's go ahead and change that. Let's just turn on our wall framing here. Come down and find our wall framing, turn on that layer. That way we can see the framing. And if you select an individual wall, let's go ahead and select this outer left wall, we can actually get an individual framing takeoff. And you can see if I zoom in here, particularly where we have that window opening, you can select any of these objects. You can easily modify it, pull it back, adjust it. If you double click on it, again, you've got that framing dialog. You can choose the information about it. You can change the thickness and all of the dimensions about that. So each one of the framing elements can be modified manually, and you may find that the automatic framing does a great job, but there are cases where you want to do an engineered wall and you need to add some additional detail. Close that, and let's take one more peek back at our 3D framing. And again, you can turn on the different views. This is more of a computerized vector view, glasshouse view, and allows you to see different things. If you have a complicated roof, sometimes a 3D view like this, even though this isn't complicated, will allow your framers to better see what sort of framing situation you may have. Earlier, when we did our materials list after completing the foundation, we showed a complete listing, but now that our framing is complete, we actually have an option in our defaults with the materials list. If I go in and edit this function called Structural Member Reporting, we can see that there's actually a couple options. The default is to list total lineal length, but you can also choose an option for a cut or by list, and you can even specify if the lumber store has a surplus or a better price on some of the members. We include an entire list of lumber that is in this table down here, which ships by default with the program, or you can create your own and set it up to be the best purchase price when you do your purchasing. So again, that's found under the structural member reporting. You can easily switch that for a cut or by list.